Hello, and welcome to the official guide for Cast, the trading card game. Since you're here, you're probably interested in joining the many mages studying for the next Cast tournament. But before we jump right in, allow me to give you a brief introduction to the game and some key knowledge on the game of Cast. Cast is a fast-paced strategy game based in the illustrious Eldritch Academy of Essence and Enigma. Here, you play as a student mage, studying the 6 natures of essence on your journey to master your magic. Each nature, represented by the 6 colleges of essence within the Eldritch Academy, specializes in one aspect of essence, the source of all magic in the world of prana. As a student, you will begin studying your inherited nature, or your natural attunement to essence, as you build your arsenal of spells you may use to challenge other mages. The objective of Cast is to defeat your opponent by meeting one of 2 victory conditions, reducing your opponent's hit points to 0, or by earning strikes, or the amount of times you've dealt damage to your opponents. A typical game of Cast lasts 15 rounds or 15 turns per player, making a mage's strategy the ultimate key to victory. Before we get into deck building, however, let's look into what a spell is and how to cast them in-game. This is an example of a spell or playable card in Cast. There are a few things here you need to know, so let's go over them. The first thing you may notice is a spell's nature or the color of the spell. This represents a specific type of strategy within the game, ranging from dealing damage to manipulating the rules of the match entirely. The next would be the title and cost, located at the top of the spell. While the title is simply the name of a spell, the cost would be how many cast points is necessary to cast or play the spell. We'll go over cast points a little later. The next thing will be the spell's trait and effect or ability. The trait of a spell is the type of magic utilized, while the effect/ability describes what the spell does. The last thing you need to know is the spell's rarity or the rank of a spell, represented by the border of the spell. Rarity determines a spell's versatility when deck building. Ranging from common to master, the higher the rank, the more specific the spell is to a single strategy. Learn as many spells as possible to gain an edge over other mages. All spells have a cost or condition that must be met before you're able to cast it, sometimes represented in the spell's effect/ability as parentheses for cost and an asterisk for conditions. If the cost is not paid, the effect/ability of a spell cannot be activated or resolved. If a asterisk condition is not met, the spell is nullified at the start of your next turn. Now that we know what spells are and how they work, let's get into building your grimoire, or the deck of spells you'll use in the game. Grimoires consist of 30 spells you choose. There are no restrictions to the combination of spells across natures other than their utility in your own strategy. Once you've designed your grimoire to your liking, we move on to the setup of the game. Each game of Cast begins with a coin flip or a dice roll to determine who goes first. Alternatively, players may choose who goes first. The rotation of turns moving forward in the game is counterclockwise, ensuring that the player to your left will have the next turn that round. Each player draws 5 spells from their grimoire and begins the game with 5 hit points and 3 cast points. Each player is only allowed 5 spells in their hand at one time. If a spell or phase would have a player possess more than 5 spells, that player must discard until they have only 5 spells in their hand at the end of their turn. This method of discarding does not trigger effects/abilities of spells on the field. Players may choose to study or mulligan their hand back into their grimoire, shuffle, and draw 5 new spells. Each study costs a player 1 cast point to perform, giving a player the option to study 3 times, but applies a disadvantage before the game starts. There are 4 phases to a turn: prep phase, the beginning of your turn; draw phase, when you draw 1 spell per turn; cast phase, when you're allowed to cast your spells; and the end phase, the end of your turn. Once all players have had a turn, a round is complete, restarting the rotation with the player who went first. The first round of every game is known as the calm round. During this round, All spells cast on a player's first turn has their effect/ability delayed until the next round. This allows players to develop an opening strategy without interruption, ensuring fair play across the game. After the calm, all spells activate on their respective player's turn and the timer of 15 rounds begins. By spending resources, or the points you accumulate in the game, spells may be put onto the field and its effect/ability is resolved. There are 3 main resources that are universal to every spell in cast: hit points, representing the amount of damage you can take; cast points, the main resource for casting spells; and shield, used for absorbing or blocking damage. Unlike other resources, a player's cast points resets during each of their respective prep phases. Accumulated cast points are available to use throughout the round, but any leftover cast points are forfeited at the start of the new round. Special resources, such as spells themselves and charges, are spell-specific resources that some spells may utilize. Each player may only have up to 6 spells on the field at one time. If a player wishes to play a spell while possessing 6 spells on the field, that player must nullify or destroy 1 spell on the field first. This method of nullifying does not trigger effects/abilities of spells on the field. All nullified or resolved spells go into the archive zone, located to the left of your grimoire. Now that you have the crash course on how the game is played, it's time to start your journey into the magical world of cast. Collect spells, assemble your best grimoire, and let the casting begin.